The rain hammered the roof of the old cabin like it was trying to drown out the laughter inside. But nothing could bury the scream that ripped from my throat when Wyatt Kane's lips crashed into mine. It wasn't a kiss. It was a collision, hot and desperate, tasting of cheap beer and the salt of unspoken regrets. Right there in the flickering glow of a bonfire that had long since died to embers. In that split second the whole party froze, cups midair, eyes wide as saucers, because no one could have predicted that the guy who'd shoved me into lockers for 3 years would suddenly be the one making my heart stutter like a faulty engine. I shoved him back first, my palms slamming into his chest, feeling the solid wall of muscle beneath his damp t-shirt, the kind of strength that had always been my nightmare but now hummed with something electric, forbidden. "What the hell, Kane?" I gasped, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand, but the words came out weaker than I intended, laced with a tremor that betrayed the fire igniting low in my gut. The circle of faces around us, kids from Haven Point High who'd grown up trading whispers about my weird sketches and Wyatt's football glory, erupted into chaos, but all I could see was him, standing there in the shadows, his blue eyes locked on mine like he'd just uncovered a secret he'd been hiding from himself longer than he'd ever tormented me. That night in the woods outside Haven Point, Oregon, where the Pacific fog rolled in like a shroud over our sleepy coastal town, everything shattered. Truth or Dare had been Mia's idea, her wild curls bouncing as she passed the bottle, giggling about how it was senior year and we all needed to let loose before the real world chewed us up. I'd come because refusing would have meant another Friday alone in my room, sketching waves that looked like they were trying to swallow entire ships whole. Haven Point was that kind of place. Cliffs jagged as broken promises, beaches littered with driftwood secrets, and a high school where everyone knew your business before you did. I'd always been the quiet one, Aiden Hayes, the kid with the thrift store jackets and the sketchbook that doubled as armor against the world. Art class was my sanctuary, where Mr. Ellis let me lose myself in charcoal smudges that turned pain into something almost beautiful. Wyatt Kane? He was the storm everyone chased. Quarterback with shoulders broad enough to carry the weight of the town's expectations, blonde hair that caught the sun like California gold even on our gray Oregon days, and a smile that could charm teachers into extra credit while his fists taught lessons in the locker room. He'd targeted me since freshman year, tripping me in the halls, scrawling fag on my locker in Sharpie that took weeks to scrub off, always with that pack of jocks trailing him like shadows. I figured it was just high school Darwinism, the alphas weeding out the outliers. But that kiss? It peeled back the layers, exposed the rot beneath his bravado and mine too. The party scattered after that, rain turning the dirt path back to town into a mudslide. I stumbled home through the downpour, my sneakers squelching, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. Mom was asleep on the couch, the TV flickering some late-night infomercial about miracle blenders, her nursing shifts at the clinic leaving her bone-tired. Dad had split when I was 10, chasing better opportunities in Seattle that never panned out, so it was just us in our creaky bungalow on Elm Street, the one with the sagging porch and the view of the harbor where fishing boats bobbed like forgotten dreams. I peeled off my soaked clothes, stood under the shower until the water ran cold, trying to rinse away the ghost of Wyatt's mouth on mine. But it lingered, a bruise blooming in my mind, soft, insistent, pulling at threads I didn't know were there. Monday morning hit like a hangover. Haven Point High loomed at the edge of town, all brick and ivy, the kind of place that smelled like salt air and teenage angst. I kept my head down, hood up against the drizzle, weaving through clusters of kids huddled under umbrellas. The halls buzzed with whispers. "Did you hear about Aiden and Wyatt?" "No way, that had to be the beer talking." Each one a needle prick. By lunch, Mia cornered me in the art room, her eyes sparkling with that mix of mischief and concern she wore like a badge. "Aiden spill. What was that?" She leaned against my easel, knocking over a jar of brushes. Mia Rodriguez, with her sharp wit and sharper eyeliner, had been my anchor since middle school, the one who dragged me to parties and called out my brooding like it was a bad haircut. I shrugged, blending grays on my canvas, a stormy seascape that mirrored the churn inside me. Truth or dare? It was nothing. He's still a dick. She snorted, crossing her arms. Nothing? You two looked like you were about to set the woods on fire. And don't think I missed how you didn't exactly hate it. Heat crept up my neck. I wasn't out, not to her, not to anyone. In Haven Point, where the church steeple pierced the sky like a warning and the annual crab festival was the height of excitement. Being gay was like admitting you rooted for the Mariners in Sox territory. Dangerous. But Mia had her suspicions, pieced together from late-night texts about crushes that never had names. Drop it, okay? Wyatt's probably plotting how to make my life hell now. She didn't drop it, but she let it hang there, heavy as the fog outside. The bell rang and I bolted to my locker, spinning the combination like it was a lifeline. That's when I saw it. A folded scrap of notebook paper, wedged in the vent like it had been waiting for me. My stomach twisted, expecting a threat, a reminder of who held the power. But when I unfolded it, the words hit like a rogue wave. You taste like salt and secrets. Don't hate me yet. I stared, pulse thundering, crumpling it in my fists before anyone could see. It had to be a joke, right? Some twisted extension of the bullying, a way to keep me off balance. But the handwriting, bold loops and sharp crosses, was unmistakably his, the same that scrawled plays on the chalkboard during study hall. I shoved it deep in my backpack, but it burned there all day, a talisman I couldn't ignore. The week blurred into a haze of avoidance. I skipped football games, buried myself in sketches of jagged cliffs and boys with eyes like tidal pools. Wyatt was everywhere and nowhere. His laughter echoing down halls I'd duck into bathrooms to escape, his silhouette on the field under floodlights that made him look invincible. Thursday afternoon gym class turned into torture. Dodgeball of all things, the coach barking orders like a drill sergeant. I was last picked, as always, relegated to the back wall, heart in my throat every time the ball whistled past. Then it came for me, red and furious, launched from Wyatt's hand like a missile. It clipped my shoulder, sent me sprawling, the gym floor cold against my palms. Laughter erupted, the usual chorus, but when I looked up, Wyatt wasn't grinning. He was frozen, jaw tight, eyes flicking away like he'd been caught stealing. Sorry, he muttered, barely audible over the chaos, but it landed like an apology wrapped in barbed wire. After class, in the empty locker room, steam from the showers hanging thick as regret, another note waited. Tucked into the slats of my bench, folded into a tight square. Hitting you felt wrong this time, like punching a mirror. Meet me at the pier after school? No games. My hand shook as I read it, the tile echoing the drip-drip of forgotten faucets. The pier, Haven Point's rickety wooden stretch into the ocean, where locals fished for salmon and tourists snapped selfies before the tide claimed the pilings. It was neutral ground, sacred even, the place where Dad used to take me to skip rocks and promise he'd never leave. Going felt like stepping off a cliff. Not going. That meant letting the kiss, the notes fester into what-ifs. I went. The sun dipped low, painting the water in bruised purples, gulls wheeling overhead like accusatory witnesses. Wyatt was there, leaning on the rail, hands shoved in his jeans pockets, the wind tousling his hair into something almost vulnerable. He didn't look at me when I approached, just stared out at the horizon where the sea met sky in a hazy blur. You came, he said finally, voice rough as gravel. Curiosity killed the cat, or whatever. I stopped a few feet away, arms crossed like a shield. Up close without the crowd, he seemed smaller, still tall, still built like he could bench press regrets. But the cocky tilt to his shoulders was gone, replaced by something raw, exposed. He turned then, blue eyes searching mine, the kind of look that stripped you bare. That kiss. It wasn't the dare. Not for me. The words hung there, heavy as the salt air. I've been an asshole to you because... Shit, Aiden, because looking at you made me feel things I wasn't supposed to. In this town, with my dad breathing down my neck about college scouts and man shit. It's easier to push away than pull closer. I laughed, bitter and sharp, the sound swallowed by the waves crashing below. Pull closer? You mean after shoving me into doors and calling me names that stuck like barnacles? That's your idea of romance, Kane. He winced, running a hand through his hair. I know. God, I know. It's fucked up. My old man's the mayor. Everyone expects me to be the golden boy. But at night, when it's quiet, I think about you. Your drawings in the hall. The way you see the world like it's got hidden colors no one else catches. He stepped closer. Close enough I could smell his soap, clean and citrusy, cutting through the brine. That note? It's me trying to say sorry without the whole town turning it into front-page news. My breath caught, the pier creaking under us like it might give way. Part of me wanted to bolt, to chalk this up to another layer of torment. But another part, the one that had sketched faceless boys in moonlight, dreaming of touches that didn't bruise, leaned in. Why now? Why me? Because you're the only one who's ever made me feel real, he whispered. And then his hand was on my arm, tentative, warm. We didn't kiss, not yet. Just stood there, the ocean roaring its approval or warning. Two boys on the edge of something vast and terrifying. That was the spark. The notes kept coming, each one a breadcrumb leading deeper into the maze of us. By Friday my locker held a sketch. Not mine but his. A clumsy pencil drawing of the pier, waves curling like fingers, and in the corner you're the color I didn't know I needed. I hid them all in a shoebox under my bed, alongside faded photos of Dad and the one sketch of Mom smiling before the lines etched deep around her eyes. School became a tightrope. We'd pass in halls, eyes locking for a heartbeat too long. His foot brushing mine in crowded stairwells like an accident that wasn't. Mia noticed, of course. You're glowing haze like you swallowed a firefly. But I deflected with jokes about late-night ice cream binges. At home the routine held. Microwave dinners, Mom's weary updates on patients who'd beat the odds again. My bedroom a cocoon of half-finished canvases. But now sleep came laced with dreams of Wyatt's hands, his laugh unfiltered, the way his presence turned the gray of Haven Point vivid. 2 weeks in, the first real date, if you could call it that, happened under the cover of a study group at the library. Haven Point's branch was a relic, shelves sagging with bestsellers from a decade ago. The librarian dozing behind her desk. We claimed a back table, books on trig open like props, but our knees knocked under the wood, sending sparks up my spine. Tell me something true, Wyatt said, his voice low, fingers tracing patterns on the tabletop that mirrored the ones I wanted on my skin. I hesitated, the air thick with the scent of old paper and possibility. I used to think art was my way out of here. But now, I don't know if I want to leave everything behind. His smile was slow, devastating. Everything, huh? He leaned in, breath warm against my ear. What if some things are worth staying for? We kissed there, hidden in the stacks, his lips soft and searching, tasting of peppermint gum and the thrill of rebellion. It was nothing like the dare, gentle, exploratory, like he was mapping me for the first time. My hands fisted in his hoodie, pulling him closer, the world narrowing to the press of his body, the quiet hitch in his breath. When we broke apart, flushed and dazed, he pressed his forehead to mine. This scares the hell out of me, Aiden. But it's the good kind. From there it snowballed. Stolen moments piled up like driftwood on the shore. Midnight drives in his beat-up Ford pickup along the coastal highway, windows down, radio blasting indie tracks about heartbreak and highways. Walks on the beach at dawn, footprints washing away before we could name what we were building. Notes evolving from apologies to poetry. Your laugh is the only tide that pulls me under willingly. But Haven Point wasn't built for secrets like ours. The town thrived on gossip, the kind that spread faster than wildfire through dry pines. Coach Harlan, Wyatt's uncle, started eyeing him funny after practice, muttering about distractions. At the diner where we grabbed milkshakes under the guise of homework, old Mrs. Greer would lean over the counter, her voice a stage whisper. Wyatt Kane consorting with that artsy Hayes boy? What would your father say? Wyatt's dad, Mayor Elias Kane, was the town's iron fist in a velvet glove. Fundraisers at the yacht club. Sermons on Sundays about family values that sounded like coded warnings. Wyatt dodged him with practiced ease, but I saw the strain. The way his shoulders tensed at dinner table calls, the bruise on his knuckles from punching walls instead of feelings. For me, the pressure simmered quieter but no less deadly. Mom found one of the notes. Meet me where the waves kiss the rocks. Tucked in my jacket pocket while doing laundry. She held it up that evening, her face a mask of confusion and quiet hurt, the kitchen light casting long shadows across the linoleum. Aiden, is this from a girl? Or? She trailed off, eyes searching mine, the unspoken word hanging like smoke. I froze, fork midway to my mouth, the spaghetti suddenly leaden. Coming out to her had always been a distant thunder, not this lightning strike. Mom, it's complicated. She set the paper down gently like it might shatter. Honey, this town, it chews up different. Your father. He left because he couldn't handle his own shadows. Don't let anyone make you hide yours. Her hand covered mine, warm and callous from endless shifts, and for the first time tears stung my eyes not from fear, but from the weight of being seen. We talked that night, haltingly at first, then in floods, about the loneliness of shifts where patients whispered regrets on deathbeds, about how she'd loved a woman once briefly, before burying it under the practicality of raising me alone. Love isn't a straight line, kiddo. It's a wave. Ride it even if it crashes. Emboldened, I told Mia the next day over coffee at the roastery, the steam curling like confessions. She hugged me fierce, tears smudging her mascara. About damn time. And Wyatt, that boy's been mooning over you since sophomore bio. When you corrected the frog diagram and he stared like you'd invented fire. Her words unlocked something, a laughter that bubbled free and true. But joy in Haven Point was fragile as sea glass, and the cracks were showing. It started small. A slashed tire on my bike outside art class, freak keyed into the paint. I blamed vandals, but Wyatt's face darkened when I told him, his jaw clenching like a trap. Then came the whispers turning to shouts. Jake Harlan, Wyatt's best friend since Pee Wee football, cornering me after school by the bleachers, his breath reeking of chew. Stay away from him, Hayes. Wyatt's got a future. You're just a phase he'll puke up like bad sushi. His shove sent me stumbling into the chain link, rust flaking onto my palms like dried blood. Wyatt found out that night, storming into Jake's garage where the guys were wrenching on trucks, beer cans littering the concrete. I wasn't there, but the story filtered back through town veins. Fists flying, Wyatt's voice cracking like thunder. Touch him again and we're done. Jake's nose bled, their brotherhood fractured, and just like that, Wyatt was adrift, his social armor cracking. We met at our spot, the hidden cove below the cliffs, where tide pools mirrored stars and the world felt far away. He arrived with a split lip, ice pack pressed to his knuckles, collapsing beside me on the sand. I lost him, Aiden. My best friend. For us. I traced the bruise blooming on his cheek, thumb gentle. You chose right. Jake's poison, you're home. He kissed me then, fierce and salty with tears, the ocean echoing our gasps. We made love for the first time under that vast sky. Clothes shed like old skins, bodies tentative then urgent, learning each other in whispers and touches that mended what words couldn't. It was messy, profound, his hands mapping my ribs like constellations, my fingers threading his hair as he murmured my name like a prayer. Afterward, tangled in his jacket, waves lapping our toes, he said, I love you, even if it costs everything. Those words were oxygen, but they also fanned the flames. The breaking point came mid-October, leaves turning the maples along Main Street to fire even as the coastal chill bit deeper. The annual Harvest Festival was Haven Point's heartbeat, booths slinging clam chowder, hayrides through pumpkin patches, the mayor's speech on the stage about preserving our way of life. Elias Kane had outdone himself that year, banners fluttering with his re-election slogan, keeping Haven Point strong and true. Wyatt and I planned to go low-key, hold hands in the shadows of the Ferris wheel, steal cotton candy kisses amid the crowd. But Jake had other ideas. He'd been stewing, nursing grudges with his cousin Brody, the town mechanic with a rap sheet for bar fights. They ambushed us near the bonfire pit, the air thick with smoke and Esmeralda's sweetness turning sour. Look at the lovebirds, Jake sneered, his voice carrying over the fiddle music, drawing eyes like moths. Brody flanked him, burly arms crossed, a smirk twisting his lip. Mayor know his boys playing for the other team? Wyatt stepped forward, shielding me, his voice steady steel. Walk away, Jake. This isn't you. But Jake laughed, cold and cutting. It is me, Kane. Protecting what's mine. You think you can parade this shit around? Ruin everything. The punch came from Brody, a haymaker to Wyatt's gut that doubled him over, flames reflecting in his eyes like hellfire. I lunged, adrenaline surging, but Jake's fist caught my jaw, stars exploding behind my eyelids, copper flooding my mouth. The crowd murmured, a ripple turning to roar, phones whipping out to capture the spectacle. Then Mia was there, shrieking for security, her small frame shoving between us like a lioness. "Back off, you Neanderthals. He's calling the cops." It ended in chaos. Brody hauled away in cuffs, Jake slinking into the night with venomous glares, Wyatt and I battered but unbroken, led to the first aid tent where Mom waited, her face ashen. She patched us up in silence, antiseptic stinging more than the wounds, until she pulled Wyatt aside. "You hurt my boy again, dare or no dare, and I'll drown you in the harbor myself." He nodded solemn. "Ma'am, I'd let you." The fallout was biblical. By morning the local paper, Haven Point Herald, splashed it across the front. Festival brawl. Quarterback's secret sparks fight. Elias Kane's office became a war room, his bellows echoing down City Hall halls. Wyatt came to me that afternoon, eyes hollow, a duffel slung over his shoulder. "He's sending me to boarding school in Portland. Says I need to straighten out before I ruin the family name." His voice cracked, the pier creaking under our weight like it shared the grief. I gripped his hand, knuckles white. "Then fight it. Tell him who you are." He laughed hollow. "I did. Last night after the cops left." He looked at me like I was a stranger. "Called it a phase, said therapy would fix it." Mom just cried. Rage boiled in me, hot and helpless. "Screw him. We leave. Together. I've got applications to art schools in San Francisco, scholarships even. We start over." His eyes lit a spark in the storm. "You do that? For me. For us." I kissed him, sealing the pact, the salt wind whipping our promises into eternity. But betrayal has teeth. It was Mia who uncovered it. Not malice but the cruel math of small towns. Jake had been feeding Elias tips for weeks. Screenshots of notes Wyatt accidentally left in his truck. Blurry photos from the cove snapped by a drone Brody borrowed from his hunting buddies. The mayor didn't just ship Wyatt away. He weaponized it, leaking just enough to the paper to paint me as the troubled influence, the outsider tempting the golden son astray. Mom got the call from the clinic board Monday morning. Complaints about her lifestyle choices affecting patient trust. She didn't fire me from the conversation, but her eyes, God, her eyes, held the fracture. "Aiden, this town. It's closing in." I confronted Jake that afternoon, alone in the empty football field, goalposts stark against the slate sky. He was tossing a ball solo like he could drill the guilt away. "Why?" I demanded, voice raw. "You were his brother." He stopped, ball thumping to the turf, his face crumpling, not in remorse but defeat. "Because if I didn't hate you, I'd have to hate myself. Wyatt chose you over us. Over me." The confession spilled then, jagged. Jake's own fumblings with a cousin last summer, buried under booze and bravado, the fear that Wyatt's truth mirrored his own. It didn't absolve him, but it humanized the monster, left me hollow as I walked away, the field blurring through tears. Wyatt left 2 days later, the Ford's taillights fading down Highway 101. A note pressed into my palm at dawn. "Waves always return. Portland's just a detour. Love, W." The house echoed emptier without his shadow in the doorway. Mom's shift stretching longer to fill the silence. Winter clamped down on Haven Point. Rains relentless, cliffs eroding like resolve. I poured it into art. Canvases of fractured skies, boys dissolving into foam, applying to schools with a fury that scared even me. Mia became my lifeline, dragging me to open mics in Portland for exposure therapy, where poets spilled guts about love's sharp edges. Letters came weekly, Wyatt's handwriting a lifeline across the miles. Tales of stiff uniforms and midnight confessions to a roommate who didn't flinch, sketches of city lights that paled next to our cove. "I dream of your hands. They ground me." Spring thawed the ice but not the ache. Mom's board cleared her after a petition, led by Mr. Ellis and a cadre of patients who'd seen her compassion firsthand. But the whispers lingered, a low hum. I graduated top of art class, cap tassel swinging like a pendulum, Wyatt's empty seat a ghost beside Mia's cheers. Summer solstice brought him back, unannounced, standing on our porch as the sun dipped into the Pacific, duffel at his feet. Elias had relented or surrendered. After therapy sessions that cracked his facade, a quiet admission over whiskey that maybe tradition needs bending. Wyatt looked older, sharper, but his eyes, those blue depths, held the same hunger. "I couldn't stay away," he said, voice thick. "Not when every streetlight reminds me of you." We didn't speak after that, just collided, lips, limbs, the porch swing creaking under the weight of reunion. Mom watched from the window, a soft smile breaking through, before slipping inside to give us the night. We left in August, the Ford packed with canvases and dreams, Highway 101 unspooling south toward San Francisco's fog-shrouded promise. Haven Point shrank in the rearview, not erased but etched. A scar-turned story, teaching that love isn't the absence of storms, but the courage to sail through them. In the city we built a tiny studio apartment with views of the bay, Wyatt coaching youth league while studying kinesiology, me at the academy, charcoal giving way to oils that captured light's defiance. Notes evolved to fridge magnets, still my favorite secret, and the world widened, accepting in fits and starts. Years later, back in Haven Point for Mom's retirement party, we walked the pier hand in hand, unashamed, the wood sturdier under repairs Elias funded with a gruff nod our way. Jake was there too, sober 2 years, eyes downcast but extending a handshake that felt like truce. "You were right," he muttered. "About facing it." Wyatt squeezed my hand, the ocean whispering forgiveness. We'd kissed a bully once on a dare that dared us to dream. Now in the salt-kissed air we breathed free, proof that even in the tightest harbors, love finds its tide.